Hey guys, how's it going? And happy Friday. I hope all of you are doing good. As always, as I was sitting here finishing some of my blackout coffee, check the link in the description, by the way, to save big time on your first purchase. I was reading the chat, and it's really good to see all of you guys. I don't get a chance to read every single comment or chat in real time, but I know you guys are here, and I enjoy reading them throughout the weekend afterwards. And trust me when I say this, I wouldn't be here without you guys. And man, let's talk about the weather real quick and how it correlates with the Second Amendment. So I was here last week. Last week. That was a Freudian slip. It kind of seems like the same thing. We got about 8 inches of really, really thick, wet, heavy snow, and no more to the snow land. And I went out and started plowing right after my stream was over. I plowed all the way till 9:30 in the morning. So I went to bed Friday night at 9:30 in the morning on Saturday. Then we started getting negative temperatures where highs in the single digits throughout the day and negatives at night. It's warmed up in the teens, but now tonight it's supposed to be back around 0 or -1. And it's been crazy. And I've been out there salting, plowing drifts. It snowed an inch today. It snowed an inch yesterday, half inch the day before kind of thing. So I've been out plowing and I'm thinking to myself, man, but it was just like 3 weeks ago, right? January in Michigan. It snows quite a bit up here. It gets pretty cold, right? Shout out to all the southern boys that are like, man, can you send some of the snow down here? Trust me, guys, I have your back. If I could, I'd send you all of it. Every last bit. I'd send it all down to the great state of South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. You guys can have all of it. And I'm so jealous of you guys right now. But sorry, you're not getting any. You have to come and, I guess, move up here and suffer like the rest of us. So, but I do read the comments and I would send it to you guys if I could. But 3 weeks ago, I was out working on my truck, did a lot of work on it, went through the hubs, redid the wheel bearings, put on a new rear differential cover, changed the fluid, was doing quite a bit of stuff. And I'm like, man, it's like 45 degrees outside. And I knew how fortunate I was that it was so warm in Michigan, 45 degrees in January. Are you kidding me? Well, a week of plowing snow and staying up all night and salting and negative temperatures. Now I look and it's supposed to be up to 40 degrees next week, which the weather, sometimes it rains, sometimes it snows, and sometimes there's a blizzard. And usually when it rains, it pours. And kind of reminded me a lot of what's going on right now with the Second Amendment. I say primarily the Second Amendment because it's really the Bill of Rights. It's this republic, as Ben Franklin said, if you can keep it, how there's ups and there's downs, and there's just constantly a power struggle between the government and we, the people. And this week is one of those weeks, and it's kind of been one of those years, and maybe it's been that way my whole life. I just didn't realize it when I was younger, and I'm sure a lot of you maybe didn't realize it either. Maybe some of you that are older than me have known it's been like this forever. The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun, so it's probably always the way it's been. But we've had some major victories this week, and I'm going to talk about those with the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, which I love the whole Bill of Rights, obviously, and I know you do too. That's why it's good to be hanging out with you guys. But the Second Amendment, I like it just a little bit more than all the rest because it's not for if, but for when they come for all the rest. And they're coming for all the rest. So many things in our society are so repugnant to the Constitution, so repugnant to any type of moral compass. God, there's just so much evil among us. And I like to mainly talk about the Second Amendment here, but there's just craziness going on. And yeah, it's true. But then sometimes we win too. And this is kind of a back in the forth week. I want to talk about some crazy stuff. Like, hey, have any of you guys bought any guns or ammo or a Bible? Imagine that. Now, you don't have to answer publicly. It doesn't really matter, though, because the government already knows if you've bought those things. And it was just brought up by Chairman Jim Jordan of Ohio, Congressman Jordan, that yeah, they've been keeping quite the extensive list. Whether you've bought religious materials, whether you've said Trump, whether you've said MAGA, whether you've bought guns, whether you bought ammo, heck, even if you went and bought a kayak at a sporting goods store, you've gotten added to a list. Another list. And I still talk to people every day, not necessarily people in this chat, but I know a lot of you guys talk to people too in real life, online, all over the place. And they say, man, I'd love to buy a gun, but, and it's like, ooh, there was a but there, but I don't want to be on a list. 2A EDU, a lot of people tell me this when I meet them in real life, and shout out to you guys, but man, I'm serious. You're already on the list. And we're just going to find out about a super draconian chilling list. And trust me, guys, we're going to talk about some victories in this stream tonight too, because like I said, sometimes it rains, sometimes it's sunny out, sometimes it snows, sometimes it's 50 in January. And there's some good stuff I want to talk about tonight too. But they're like, dude, I watch every stream. And they go on around 9:30 p.m. every Friday night, right? And they type in 2A EDU live or 2A EDU, and they just find the stream. And I'm like, well, if you just give the channel a sub, you'll get the alerts. And they're like, no, dude, I can't sub to your channel. I don't want to be on that list. And that's okay. Some people just sit back in the shadows and they like to live life in the shadows. And that's fine. You do you, obviously. I'm not going to judge anybody like that. But I just think to myself, man, people are afraid to sub to a YouTube channel. A YouTube channel where I have like the best audience on all of YouTube. And like, you guys are all like really, really nice ladies and gentlemen. Like, you guys are role model Americans. But some people are afraid to even be on a list with the best of us. And I'm sure some of the founding fathers were afraid to be on lists too, but when they signed the Declaration of Independence, that was the ultimate list. That was the put up or shut up list, where when you went on that list, you were going to die and you were going to lose your life, your fortune, and your sacred honor. That's what the Declaration of Independence said if they would have lost. I thank God every day, and I hope you guys do too. I'm not being corny, but make sure you thank God or whatever it is that you pray to. People have different versions of what God is, but pray to whatever you pray to every day and be very thankful that they didn't lose. Because this experiment on self-governance is one of the greatest forms of government that's ever been put out. Now, we've gone a long way from that. I'm not saying our government's great right now. I love my country and I can't stand my government. I don't trust my government at all. But I do love the founding documents, and I get encouraged by how many good people are out there. Now, hanging out in this channel or going and buying a gun, no, it's not heroic or anything like that compared to the founding fathers. But I think to myself, people love the Second Amendment and they cherish this republic. If you can keep it, that's the big part. It's not just a republic no matter what. It's not a republic because the founding document said so. We don't have a right to keep and bear arms because the Second Amendment said so. No. We have the Second Amendment if you can keep it, if we can keep it. And sometimes it's really hard to keep. And in many cases lately, we've been winning just a little bit. But I think about that and I'm like, man, alive. Like, people went out there and pledged their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor about 250 years ago. They would have all been dead. We would have never even known what the Declaration of Independence said. It would have either all copies would have been burned outright, or there might be a dusty roll-up copy of it sitting in the musty basement of a museum somewhere. Maybe if it was lucky. We have people today where we're at a time for choosing, and no, there's no Lexington or Concord Bridge going on right now. Although over 50% of Americans, when surveyed, think there's going to be sometime soon. I know a lot of you guys think about that too. I know you probably think about that a lot. I know I do. But those people are willing to do all that, and then people will say, well, I can't be on a list. And you pick your favorite group. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, but they won't join GOA. They won't join Great Lakes Gun Rights in Michigan. They won't subscribe to this channel. They won't go to a gun shop. They won't do anything because they're afraid they're going to be on a list. And we found out about this doozy list that probably, if I had to guess, every single person's on. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But before we get going, I want to thank all of you guys for being here and all the many ways you guys support the channel. You guys are the financial sponsors of this channel. I want to remind you of that. If you guys have a couple extra bucks, want to become a channel member, that definitely helps. Patreon, also locals. Make sure you check out my locals community. It's a censorship-free site where I do bonus content, including a weekly live stream. And I look forward to seeing you guys over there tomorrow night, rather. And I saw you guys last Sunday because I was plowing snow. I'd also like to thank a couple of other companies that are helping out the channel. They're not sending me money. You guys are my financial supporters, but RPM Ammo, here's some of their 5.56. They are located in Middle Tennessee. We're working out the dates, guys. It's probably going to be sometime before it gets warm outside, right? I'm going to be doing a hangout down there and I don't want to say too much yet because we're going to try to get a little closer to finalizing some details over the weekend, but maybe with another famous YouTuber. I'm not a famous YouTuber, but the one that might be down there hanging out with me actually is. So all of you guys down in Tennessee or within driving distance, we have something fun we're trying to plan. Like, no, seriously fun, where some of us will be able to hang out. I do my 2A EDU annual hangout up here in Michigan every year. And I'm looking to go down to Rockville, Tennessee. It's called RPM. Look, we're on YouTube right now. And with the new terms of service that are coming on YouTube, that's a whole nother conversation, so I'll be brief. I don't even know soon if I'll even be able to talk about anything on here. Ground facts, whatever those mean. We'll talk about that as it gets closer. But there's literally crazy terms of service. I see my friend Flying Rich hanging out here right now in DLD After Dark. They do a podcast over on Rumble. Okay. If you want to put the name of your podcast in there, feel free, Flying Rich. And they did a whole episode talking about these new terms of service. I don't even know what I'll be allowed to talk about here soon, but as of right now, I'm on here. So make sure you guys go over to my locals community. I just made a post giving you more information on RPM Ammo. That's Rockville Precision Munitions. The guy that owns it's a true patriot. He's been a subscriber, hanging out, watching all these streams along with you guys on the channel for a while, and definitely check them out. And look, guys, we're going to talk about some big corporate companies that have been throwing you under the bus. That's why I'm shouting out some companies that are small businesses, people that are true patriots. Another one is Forge Tech Holsters. Check out the link down in the description there. It's not an affiliate link, but there is a coupon code to save you 5%. Paul, who owns Forge Tech, he's a Michigan guy. Some of you guys hung out with him last year at my 2A EDU hangout. Makes awesome Kydex holsters. This being an OWB for the Taurus TX22 compact. Sometimes I like the OWBs for range time. Sometimes I like IWBs. These are handmade in the USA. Every single component's from the USA. So you won't find a foreign screw or washer or fastener or clip or anything like that. 100% made in the USA. This is an IWB for the Taurus GX4 Toro. If we're on locals, I could show you with it in there, but this is just a completely empty holster for all of the fans that work at YouTube that watch this. But very high quality clips here. You get tons of customization with these. You can see the hook. So definitely check out Forge Tech. And he's been a really good friend of the channel and my personal friend. Local business, made in the USA. And there's even a custom Kydex 2A EDU print that you can get your holster made in, which I know some of you guys have. But yeah, definitely check that out. If you guys are a supporter of the channel member, supporters on locals, check those supporters feeds over there, as well as Patreon. There's a little bit bigger discount for you guys as well. Literally, if you're going to buy a holster, probably you'll pay for your monthly subscription that you use to help support this channel just by buying a holster and using that coupon code. But everybody can save 5%. The code and link is down there in the description. So yeah, like I said, sometimes it rains, sometimes it doesn't. And let's first talk about what Jim Jordan has just revealed. Congressman Jordan. I was driving through his district in Ohio. I think it was 2 years ago. And I'm like, man, this is a nice part of Ohio. So shout out to all the Ohioans. And I know it's a great state. You guys are just like the rest of us. Some of the states are full with liberals and leftists and people who hate this country. And they come in and, yeah, try to mess it up for the rest of the state. But most of Ohio is a beautiful state, just like most of Michigan's a beautiful state, right? Yeah, I was driving through his district, and I'm like, man, this is a nice area. This is reported by the New York Post. Federal investigators asked financial institutions to search terms such as Trump, and MAGA when combing over customer data in the aftermath of, get ready, no, like January 6th, Capitol riot. Representative Jim Jordan, Republican of Ohio, revealed Wednesday. Just think about this. Just think about where we're at right now. I mentioned a couple places in Massachusetts. 1775, see, 1776, July 4th, Declaration of Independence. The shot that heard around the world about a year earlier. Okay, that's when the war had started, if you will. Lexington Green and Concord Bridge in Massachusetts, that occurred, and that founded our country. That kicked it off anyways, the founding of these United States of America. And now we live in a world, we live in a time in the year 2024. Can you believe it's 2024 already? Wow, guys. Happy New Year. Jeez, oh Pete's. This year's going to be crazy. Trust me. Put on your big boy pants and pull up them bootstraps. You ain't seen nothing yet. This year's going to be crazy. But we'll do it together and we'll hang out together. I see some friendly faces in the chat who were hanging out during the Flugaloo here. A lot of you guys have been watching a long time. We'll get through this. But they literally say that January 6th was the biggest threat to our democracy. When somebody says that, put on those warning sirens. We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic, if you can keep it. But this January 6th, they're making it sound like it's the worst thing that's ever happened. Nobody brought a gun there. Nobody tried to violently overthrow anything. You guys saw the tapes. They're getting led around. They're getting, remember the shaman, they call him, right? You guys remember that guy? You can literally see they're giving him a guided tour. He stops to look at a painting. The police are like, "Oh, sir, would you like to know more about the painting?" They're showing him. They're walking around. I mean, there's old ladies walking in there, picking up brochures. Like, you know what I mean, right? Shout out to old people that have worked their butt off their whole life and have time to go on vacation. And when they do, they like to go to the travel center or their travel agent. They give them the brochures. They walk in, they grab a brochure. They're walking around. "Oh, look, there's the statue of so-and-so." And the cops are like, "Right this way, sir. Right this way, ma'am." I mean, have you guys seen any of the footage? Like, I'm not joking right now. They're giving guided tours. Somebody put his feet on somebody's desk once. Somebody moved a podium like 50 feet. Think about that. A country that was started out of the barrel of a gun. They're going to use this January 6th guided tour. Okay, that's what I'm going to call it right now. Guided tour of the Capitol building. They're going to use that to try to take away from your guns. Like, take away your liberty. Take away everything. Because just remember this. When they say gun control, we immediately go right to the gun. And we think gun's the operative word, except for it's not. In the phrase gun control, the operative word is control. And as Chairman Mao of China, it was called the Cultural Revolution. It was called many things, where many people died. So many more people died there than we'll ever even know. Okay? Was it 50 million? Was it 100 million? Who knows? It could have even been more than that. He very correctly stated, this is a guy that wasn't right on much. Very, very evil person. But he said all political power comes from the barrel of a gun. And look, we're peaceful people. What they said was an attempt to overthrow the whole government. They said these were acts of insurrection. Looked like a guided tour for the most part. There were some people that got a little rowdier than others, okay, in full disclosure. But for the most part, the vast majority of the people whose lives are getting ruined, who are sitting there in a dark hole in the ground on bread and water, apparently being denied a writ of habeas corpus. I mean, this stuff's like literally like draconian, crazy stuff that you can't even imagine going on in America. And there's still people sitting in a hole that can't get a trial. This is the worst thing that ever happened. And they're going to use this just like they used what we call 9/11, right? There's a lot to that too. When these new terms of service comes in, I don't even know if I'll be able to say these words anymore. Go look up the new YouTube terms of service that are coming soon, and they're probably already enacted. So don't worry, YouTube. I have some ground facts and some ground round sirloin. I'd like to buy some sirloin. So I will read the generous super chats, and maybe we'll have ground facts and ground sirloin eventually on this channel. If you guys don't get the inside joke, I'll talk more about that. That's literally part of the new YouTube rules. Everything he says has to be ground facts. So a lot of people toured the Capitol, and now they're saying, well, we're going to try to put you on a list and try to take your guns and try to take your Bible and try to take anything that you hold dear from you, so you won't even think about it. You won't even think about doing what the Founding Fathers did when they started this dang country, let alone even go on a tour in the Capitol, guided tour by the police. The request came from, oh, geez, imagine that, the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, the FINCEN. Ooh, this is a 6-letter agency. Ooh. Okay, so 4-letter agencies and 3-letter agencies. Look at the ATF, FBI, CIA, 3-letter agencies. You better watch your dog. 6-letter agency, watch your dog, your cat, your parakeet, your fish tank. Nothing's sacred to the 6-letter agencies. Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, according to documents obtained by the House Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. The panel, headed by Jordan, demanded testimony from the agency's former Strategic Operations Division Director. Just think about that. We have part of, let's call it what it is, the IRS, the Treasury Department, right? This all goes back to the IRS every time. Just remember, guys, it's not a felony because you made the machine gun on its face, right? If you had a modern machine gun, no, it's because you didn't pay the tax on it. See, if you don't pay a $200 tax for national firearms regulated items in this country, you go to prison for 10 years, 100K plus in fines because you didn't pay a $200 tax. Just think about that. If you don't pay a $200 speeding ticket, what happens? Maybe you have to go to court. Maybe you have to plead it down. Maybe you have to do a driver's safety course. I mean, if you don't pay a $200 ticket, usually you get in trouble proportion to not paying $200. You don't pay a $200 tax stamp. That's a felony. That's one of the biggest felonies, punishable by up to like one of the highest prison sentences. I mean, look at CRS Firearms. Look at Matt Hoover. Look at Justin Irving. Look at them in jail because, well, that's totally irrelevant because they didn't even make machine guns. Like, and the ATF proved it during the court hearings, but don't pay a tax. See what happens. So yet again, we're back to this again over taxes. What about all those new IRS agents? Just think about that. You live in a country right now where the agency has a strategic operations division. I mean, that sounds warlike. That literally sounds like something the military would have. Like, okay, we're going to war. Well, what do we do, sir, with our troops? Let's get a hold of the strategic operations division. Am I the only one that thinks that? Like, the strategic operations division of the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, they're literally telling you in plain English that they have a whole division set up to have strategic operations against you. If you buy any religious books, if you say MAGA, if you say Trump, if you buy guns, if you buy ammo, if you do many, many things. Director Noah Bischoff is part of a probe into what the Ohio Republican called an alarming, and I agree with that, case of pervasive financial surveillance seemingly conducted on the basis of protected political speech. See, they're going after the First Amendment. They're going after all of them. I mean, people think, well, the soldier quartered in a home. Actually, during the Kung Flu, that did actually happen. Remember, there's some people who are still enlisted, active duty, right? And they live off base in apartments. Think about this. And they said to landlords, you can't evict them. Even if they can't pay the rent, they can't evict. So there were literally cases where the government forced soldiers to be quartered in somebody's home. I'm not even joking. We used to be able to say up until a couple years ago, well, that's the one amendment that isn't really germane right now. Yet, actually, that's germane too. All of it is, and they're going after all of it. The committee and select subcommittee have obtained documents indicating the following January 6th, 2021. FINCEN, oh, that's just obnoxious, distributed materials to financial institutions that, among other things, outline the typologies of various persons of interest and provide financial institutions with suggested search terms and merchant category codes. We talked about those merchant category codes on this channel. How when you use a credit card, you use a debit card, that they were going to start putting your transactions into specific categories. And what would they use them for? Well, now we see more of, look, is anyone surprised? Like, we knew this is what they were going to do, but we need to talk about this, because when we know what they're going to do and then they do it, well, we need to still keep calling it out, don't we? Merchant category codes for identifying transactions on behalf of federal law enforcement. So you're buying stuff, and now you have the feds, the Treasury Department, right, with their Strategic Operations Division, asking banks and credit institutions and credit cards your information on your transactions so they can start categorizing you. These materials included a document recommending the use of generic terms like Trump and MAGA to search Zelle payment messages, he noted. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is a brief summary. There's a lot more to this. Now, this is crazy. I'm reading direct quotes because these are not words that I like to use in my vocabulary, because this is all political propaganda. FinCEN, I mean, you just have to look at this. This is the name of the organization that's coming after your guns at the moment. FinCEN in America. At first I looked at this. I'm like, I'm thinking about the Kung Flu. I'm thinking, Jiang Dong, Kung Fu, FinCEN. Oh, FinCEN. This must be the Chinese government, obviously. I mean, FinCEN? Ramen noodles? I don't know. No, this is the United States of America. The FinCEN also passed along its analysis of, quote, lone actor, homegrown, violent extremism indicators, end quote. They're trying to analyze you guys to consider you. Now, this is completely separate than the militia violent extremists, the MVEs. You know what I mean? This is a new one. Let me say this again. Hold on a minute. I need a sip of this blackout coffee. That is really good. All right. Lone actor, this is in quotes, lone actor / homegrown violent extremism indicators to financial institutions helping the government look for suspects involved in the Capitol riot. Greatest thing to happen since 9/11. Since Concord Bridge and Lexington Green. They don't bring that up, though, do they? Oh, no, they don't want to bring that up, obviously. That wouldn't be too good. Involved in the Capitol riot. According to Jordan, which warned that extremism, in quotes, indicators include purchases such as, listen to this, bus tickets, rental cars, or plane tickets for travel to areas with no apparent purpose. We're going to get to the Second Amendment stuff in a minute, but I mean, geez, oh, Pete, it's like I live and breathe the Second Amendment. You do too, but like all this stuff's like so important. I have to talk about all this because I think the gun part is what they're coming after the most. But just think about this. Extremism indicators include purchases such as bus tickets, rental cars, or plane tickets for travel to areas with no apparent purpose. Purpose for who? According to FinCEN? FinCEN, I wonder if they're related to Fang Fang. Remember Congressman Eric Swalwell? Slept with a Chinese spy, no big deal, got promoted to even higher committees. We'll probably literally see him as a presidential candidate. When Eric Swalwell wins, they'll say, Eric Swalwell and his running mate Fang Fang. Do you guys remember all this? Fang Fang, FinCEN, Fang Fang, Chinese spy, literally slept with the California lawmaker. And what have they done? They've moved him up in the ranks. He's on more powerful committees. He'll probably be president someday in the freest and fairest and most fortified election of all time. We'll have to wait a few years for that, though, because right now they're still trying to trot out the current former vice president All right, so if you made any travel for a place with no apparent purpose, do you think that's a good purpose when I go down to the PSA, the gathering event every year? Hope to see some of you guys down there in March, by the way. Will that be an apparent purpose when I go down to Rockville, Tennessee? Information on them is over on my locals. If you want to talk to, I'm serious. The owner's a patriotic dude. Like, he's right in with these conversations, like all of us are. Really good dude. Will that have any kind of purpose? Do you guys think I'm on a list? Let me know in the chat. Am I on a list yet? I'm not sure. I should probably end this stream right now. I'm kind of scared that I might end up on the January 6th list. Okay, so traveling for no apparent purpose or the purchase of books, in parentheses, including religious texts. Have any of you bought a Bible? Does anyone need a new Bible or want to buy one as a gift? And if so, are you afraid to buy one now? I hope you're not. Seriously, is anyone out there afraid to buy the good book if you need an extra copy or an extra 10? The purchase of books, including religious texts, that could only happen in a country without a First Amendment, obviously. And subscriptions to other media containing extremist views. See, that's where somebody just unsubbed. I just saw it out of the corner of my eye. They said, I knew it. So earlier in the stream, I said so many people just shadow watch my channel because they're afraid to subscribe. They said 2A Edu holds extremist views. He loves the Second Amendment. Ooh, he loves the First Amendment. Ooh, he loves this experiment in self-governance, loves the Declaration of Independence, has a Gadsden flag, says, don't tread on me, and reads the Bible. And I know all of my viewers aren't Christians, but I'm not ashamed of my Christian faith. And I believe in Jesus, and I believe he died for my sins, and the only way to heaven is through him. Watching this channel might put you on a list. So if you guys are watching for the first time, welcome. Make sure you subscribe, and don't forget the thumbs up. Someone just said I knew I was going to be on a list if I watched this channel. I just lost a subscriber just now, if you guys can believe that. I bet you they'll be back, though. Tell them in the chat to come back. It's okay. They're already on a list anyways. Subscriptions to other media containing extremist views. They just define an extremist as someone that's bought a bus ticket or a rental car or a plane ticket to travel for no apparent reason, bought a religious book. In other words, FinCEN urged large financial institutions to comb through the private transactions of their customers for suspicious charges on the basis of protected political and religious expression, Jordan argues in the missive. The lawmaker also charged that FinCEN distributed slides explaining how financial institutions can flag customers who fit the profile of a, quote, potential active shooter. You knew they were going to talk about the guns, didn't you? Think about it. Or terrorists based on their transactions. Did they say terrorist? Oh, of course they did. Duh. The slides instruct financial institutions. These are slides. Now, hold on a minute. How did they get these slides? How did FinCEN get these slides? Literally by extorting it from you. Say you work your whole life to try to make life just a little bit better for your kids than it was for you. To try to make America a little bit better. Sometimes it rains, sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it snows, sometimes it doesn't. And life's great, and then you die, and life sucks, and then you die, and it's actually a bit of both. And at the end of the day, it's what you make of it. And I encourage all of you to keep your spirits up and make the best of it as you can. But you work your butt off, you're taxed to no end, you're a tax slave, paying taxes under duress from the barrel of a gun. And every breath that you take in life is a gift from God, and every breath you take is one less breath than you're going to take. Now, to some people, that's a very sad thing because that's the end, but to a lot of people, including Christians who they want to persecute more than ever before, that's just the beginning. And that's what has made America so great, is that you can have your own religious expression and your own religious beliefs. And then they tax you, which is theft. And they have operations departments to plot against you and to put you on lists. And then they take some of those tax dollars and they make slides. You paid for those slides. Isn't that crazy? Just think about that for a minute. As hard as you've worked for your money in your life and how much of your check is gone every week, you paid for these slides. The slides instruct financial institutions to search for terms such as, quote, small arms, Cabela's, and Dick's Sporting Goods. You can't even make this up. Among numerous others. Dick's Sporting Goods, are you kidding me? That's like one of the most fun sporting goods shops there are. Dicks are dicks, as the old saying goes. I haven't given that company 1 red cent of my money, but maybe I just got off the list, actually. Hold on a minute, guys. He's off the list. What do you guys think? Am I off the list right now? I'm off the list. I don't shop at Dick's. Are you kidding me? Dick said we won't ban the AR-15. Some people say it stands for the assault rifle, 15. Some people say it stands for America's rifle, 15. Stands for the Armalite rifle. But they won't sell those anymore and haven't for quite some time. This is one of the most FUD anti-gun sporting goods stores there is. But here's the problem. See, I said this a long time ago, and you guys know I did. Don't forget the thumbs up. I usually get 1 thumbs down when I say this, but the FUDs, they're even coming after the FUDs now. Ooh, 2 FUDs are watching right now. Hit the thumbs up, guys. Let's help reverse this a little bit here. But people say, 2A Edu, you're controversial. You called out the FUDs. You called out Dick's Sporting Goods. The Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. I mean, I don't really know what the debate is here, but Dick's Sporting Goods is one of the biggest FUD companies, and they're even coming after the FUDs. Wow. I mean, I'm not rooting for these people. I don't want these people to come after anybody, but I've gotten into some pretty healthy debates with the FUDs for a while, right, Mateo? Mateo says I won't even drive through a Dick's parking lot. I know. If I saw one on fire and I was literally ready to pee my pants, I would literally like soil my upholstery in my truck before I go try to help put the fire out, if you know what I mean. Wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire. But even if you shop there, search terms such as small arms? What if you type in large arms? You know, the Second Amendment, somebody argued, do you guys get the same arguments? Some of these same arguments. If I choose to engage, I'll get them every day. It's like it's never going to stop. They're like, well, certainly. Certainly the Second Amendment doesn't cover a bazooka. And I'm like, excuse me? I'm like, well, I think certainly it covers a howitzer missile battery. And they're like, what, just like the shell? Like one of those inert training rounds? I'm like, no, like the whole trailer, or some of them are built into the back of a missile truck. Like the whole missile truck with the howitzer battery. And then they always come back every time. They say, well, hold on a minute. You have to be reasonable. What do you think about a nuke? I'm like, well, a nuke's an interesting thing. If you're literally talking about a nuke and some of these biological weapons, I mean, we just have this country brought down to its knees financially. And groceries are still through the roof. And it's insane over, in my opinion, a biological weapon. I mean, obviously, we know a lot more about biological weapons than we want to admit a lot of times. But when it comes to like biological weapons and when it comes to like nukes and stuff, to me, that's playing God, and men are not angels. And if I could just snap my fingers and make all the nukes go away and all the biological weapons go away, that's what my preference would be. So I don't think anybody should own a nuke. Not any government, not any individual person, or biological weapons where they could just like unleash something and kill everybody. No. But literally, besides weapons that I don't believe that humans are responsible enough or smart enough or omnipresent enough to even own, like they shouldn't be on this planet. That's my belief. They should not be on this planet. And well, it just shows it's always been a battle of good versus evil, huh? And I think it's the evil in this world that we even have weapons like that anywhere. But once one country has it, the rest have to have it. And I know it goes in a spin cycle. But no, I don't think anyone should own a nuke. And neither should the United States government or anybody. But up to a nuke, yeah, you can own a fighter jet. I mean, I thank God, and I do thank God what happened during the founding era of this country. I really do, and I hope you do too. Because as crappy as this country is in so many ways, and this country's really, really crappy in so many ways, it's still better than most countries when it comes to being able to actually speak and talk. New terms of service coming here soon. I don't know what we'll be able to talk about anymore. I really don't. That's coming here in February. But good thing during the founding era, there were civilians that owned warships because they actually used civilian warships, which a warship was the most powerful arsenal. It was the most powerful weapon battery, whatever you want to word it, that existed of those times. And civilians definitely own those. They would write a letter of marque, right? Isn't that what it was called? A letter of marque back then, where a privateer could go out on their warship and serve the purposes in which the government contracted them to do. And they did have privately owned firearms. They did have privately owned cannons and privately owned warships, which would be the equivalency of, think of the biggest aircraft carrier today. Think of the biggest, just any airplane, the best airplane, the best submarine, just the best vessel you can think of in the U.S. military. Some of the very best, most state-of-the-art ones were owned by civilians during the 1770s. Very, very important to remember that. So the FUD will sit there and say, well, hold on a minute. You shouldn't be able to own a F-16. You shouldn't be able to own a bazooka. There's no way you think you should be able to own a machine gun. I'm like, dude, it doesn't really matter whether I think we should or not, actually. And it doesn't matter if you think. It doesn't matter if Joe Blow FUD thinks. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The Second Amendment is the second time the United States Constitution was amended. Therefore, it's part of the Constitution. There is no debate on whether I think it should or you think it should. If you live in the United States of America and you want to be a law-abiding citizen, you follow the supreme law of the land. And the law says the right to keep and bear, so you can own them and possess them, and you can also put forth publicly, bear them, shall not be infringed at the end of the day. But even those people who say, well, I go to Dick's because they don't sell weapons of war anymore. I'll go there and buy my muzzle loader, which muzzle loading is an awesome sport, hunting, whatever. I don't have anything against muzzle loaders at all, guys, but the guy that's like, I'm going to slip below the radar and I'm going to go to Dick's Sporting Goods. That person's not safe. They're literally on the list. These government slides that you paid for are instructing financial institutions to search terms such as small arms, Cabela's. This reminds me, a lot of people go to Cabela's just to look at least the one in Dundee, Michigan. Shout out to all the Michiganians, by the way. I'm always rooting for the home field advantage to all the Michiganians. I like all you guys in the South. And someone just said, dude, it's cold in the South too. I'm like, try me. They're like, it got down to 17 in Texas. I'm like, shout out to all the people in the South. You guys are all good, trust me. They said the windmills won't turn. I'm like, oh, geez, imagine that. They're trying to drive the electric car. It stalls out, and it won't even take the charge. We're in trouble if we can't turn this around, guys. But anyways, Cabela's in Michigan, a lot of people just go there just to look at the trout stream and all the mounted animals, the mounts, the stuffed mountain goats and ducks, and they have a really large taxidermy collection there. And you can see trout and all that. Dude, you're still on the list. Granny walking through the Capitol with tour guides. The cops were giving them tours. Here you'll see the painting on the wall. You guys don't believe me? Go back and watch the footage. Remember that shaman, they call him? I've actually heard him talk. Quite an interesting fella. I'm not saying I believe with his religious views, because I actually don't, but interesting fella. Let's just say that. He's walking around. They're looking at artwork. They're talking about paintings together. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you just go into Cabela's to look at the trout stream and the taxidermy, you're probably on that same list. I'm being serious. Let me check out some of these super chats that have that have popped up here. We got some good news we're going to talk about in a minute, but just think about this for a minute. Woo, man alive! You guys think you're on a list yet? Dale Kanya with a member for 32 months. Member super chat. Thanks, man. I appreciate all your support. He says, "Howdy, Patriots." Well, thanks, man, and nice to see you, dude. Watch yourself going to Cabela's, looking at that trout stream. Flying Rich, there he is. What's happening, Rich? How you doing? He says, "I love you, man. Nice to see you, dude." And I gave you a shout out earlier, but you guys were talking about these new YouTube terms of service. Crazy. Am I going to see you down south? And I guess it's 2 months from now. Let me know, man. As we say, down south. And then when you live in Michigan, you refer to the people up there as up north. I guess that makes sense, though. Down south and up north, right? Yeah. Am I going to see you down south? DLD After Dark. Thanks for the super chat, man. Nice to see you. And shout out to the DLD After Dark channel. He says, sitting here watching you with Flying Rich. Dude, that's awesome, man. I'm jealous. I wish I could sit with you guys. So maybe I'll see you, down south here in a couple months. Maybe. South Carolina. It's a nice place. I've heard it's a nice place, guys. How many of you guys live down there? How many of you guys watching right now are going to go to the PSA The Gathering? That's the next event you can actually look up dates for right this minute. I plan on being there both days. I'm also planning on stopping by Rockville, Tennessee, RPM. For more information on them, check that post out on Locals, but hope to see some of you guys down there. Speaking of Virginia, man, you guys are kind of another Michigan. You guys have gotten with your governor and stuff. You're starting to get on the right side of things. But then stuff's starting to flip in your legislature back and forth. There's a lot of parallels between Michigan politically and Virginia, meaning there's lots of people who hate the Constitution and hate you that live in Virginia. I know. And lots of people who hate people like me that live in Michigan. I know you guys just had your VCDL, right? And that was a really, really big event. And I know they're trying to shove a whole long list of gun control. Marco made a post on my Locals community about that. So make sure you guys read his post that he made earlier today. It's a free post. Free members can go over there and enjoy that. And he said, proud to be on the list. Nice, man. Proud to have you here. Speaking of Virginians, man, what's up with all these Virginia people? Let's get some more Michigan people in here. Look, I like Virginians. And I give you guys all... But come on, where's the home court advantage? I see right now we've got, okay, think about this. We've got Dale's a Michigan guy. We've got Rich, he's a Florida man. We've got DLD, Virginia, Marco Polo, Virginia, and QD. What's happening, QD? Nice to see you, man. He says, thanks for the generous super chat. He says, even if you have a nuclear weapon, you still need a bunch of dudes with AR-15s to keep them. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. No, I mean, thanks for stating the obvious. You're right, man. He said the right to keep and bear arms really doesn't stop at nuclear or anything. Even Davy Crockett's. No, I agree. The right to keep and bear arms does cover a nuke. I completely agree with you. My opinion is I wish nukes didn't exist. But no, the right's the right. Yes, we do have the right to nuclear weapons. Absolutely. I completely agree with you 100%. And if I didn't make that clear enough earlier, thank you for... I don't think I did clarify that. Yes, we have the right to keep nuclear arms according to the Second Amendment. Absolutely. I just also, at the same time, wish that those hadn't been invented. If I could just like wish for something and wave a magic wand, right? These Southern boys are outnumbering us right now, guys. Ooh, help me out a little bit. Help me out in the chat. I'll be reading all the chat afterwards, guys. These guys ain't too bad, man. I've spent some time with some of these Southern boys in the South, and they're good people. They really are. I just still want you guys to come in so we can, like, I don't know what we're beating them at. I just wanted to, like, I don't know, like there's more of us or something. Just sound off where you're from in the chat. Get to know each other. And look, the real reason I want you guys to is start making friends, start meeting people. You'll have a lot of fun along the way, and maybe someone's like, dude, I'm in Michigan. Oh, really? Where at? Dude, I go to this park and hang out. Well, dude, I do too. Let's go there and talk about stuff that you talk about in the park. Dude, I forgot my phone in my truck. So did I. Oh, that sucks. All right, let's talk. You know what I mean? There's places people can go and just try to network with each other and hang out and have a good time. Enjoy the Second Amendment. Enjoy what's left of America, right? All right, so they made these slides. So the last part I read, for those of you that just joined, the slides that you paid for instruct financial institutions to search for terms such as, quote, small arms, Cabela's, and Dick's Sporting Goods, among numerous others. Numerous others. Don't forget the numerous other part. Shout out to Kentucky. Awesome state, by the way. Despite these transactions having no apparent criminal nexus, and in fact, relate to Americans exercising their Second Amendment rights, FinCEN seems to have adopted a characterization of those Americans as potential threat actors. Jordan wrote, potential threat actors? In a separate letter sent Wednesday, the panel chairman also asked FBI Director Christopher Wray, that's a real beauty, to make a senior official in the Bureau's Strategic Partner Engagement section available for a transcribed interview related to Bank of America's cooperation with the FBI after January 6th. So this is going to be good. Hopefully they'll get some transparency on this. I mean, I'm sure we'll never hear the whole story, but, you know. Shout out to New Mexico in the chat. Vince, nice to see you, man. Good people in every state, man. I'm sure there are. Is there anyone watching from Hawaii? I don't have many Hawaiian viewers, but I'm sure there's one or two of those out there even. Jordan is seeking to question the FBI official Peter Sullivan about the Bureau's mass accumulation and use of Americans' private information without legal process, the FBI's protocols, if any, to safeguard Americans' privacy and constitutional rights. Sorry about that, guys. I forgot to turn my notifications down. If any, to safeguard Americans' privacy and constitutional rights in the receipt and use of such information, and the FBI's general engagement with the private sector on law enforcement matters. At the request of the FBI, the country's second largest bank voluntarily, without any legal process, snooped through the information of anyone making certain purchases in and around Washington before and after the riot. Jordan charged. The riot, that's what some people call it. Sullivan, he said, provided Bank of America with specific search terms to look for as it looked over customer data, including firearms, hotel, Airbnb, or airline ticket purchases leading up to and after January 6th, 2021. See, but the list is numerous, and this is afterwards, and this is ongoing, it appears. So this is definitely not just one thing. Bank of America reportedly handed over the information of 211 people to the FBI, Fox News reported back in February. Only one of the 211 was brought in for questioning. None were arrested, according to the outlet's report. Yeah, that's what happened back in February of 2021. Now we're finding out there's these search terms, and it appears we'll have to wait for more of this to develop through the affidavits and questioning that they're going to do and this committee. So stay tuned to that, because it's kind of crazy. Now, I want to go on right to this next story, because you tell me, Americans bought nearly 16 million firearms last year in defiance of Biden's gun control push. So this is where we see this ebb and this flow, and they push here, we push back. They push here, we push back. We push, they push. There is some push and pull going on. Now, who knows where that's going to go? But keep in mind, over 50% of the people when surveyed, and there's been numerous surveys done on this, think that the United States is heading towards some type of civil war. Whether that would be in a revolutionary standpoint, or it would just be half the country versus the other half, whether that would be along geographical lines or just ideological lines. It doesn't get into the specifics, but when just asked the general question, over half the people in this country, whether they want it or not, some fear it, some yearn for it, but that's besides the point. Just the point blank. It was actually close to 2/3 thought, yeah, we are going to see one soon. So there's clearly lots of tumult and lots of people going back and forth with things. So they're doing all this, and I've talked week after week after week. I mean, keep in mind, there's that new ATF rule that's going to be getting published here fairly soon that you'll have to be an FFL to even be able to sell your firearms, for the most part, with few exceptions. Michigan here in less than a month, 3 weeks from now, is going to have a universal licensing process. Many other states already have it. Many other states are trying to go towards there. So there's all of this going on where it's like the wolves are at the door, and they are at the door. Make no mistake. And they're closing in and putting the clamps on us. But then we strike back and buy 16 million firearms. Now, there's way more than that. But this is according to the Gateway Pundit. The latest statistics for firearm sales is in. And they show that Americans bought nearly 16 million firearms in 2023, despite Biden's gun control push. Now, here's what's interesting. We're buying all these guns despite, or maybe in direct retaliation too, I don't know, the government wanting to restrict. But then there's the Bruin Supreme Court decision that actually invalidates all of this gun control. But then we have states like Michigan and many others that are retaliating back and passing more gun control than we had before Bruin. See what's happening here? Everything's just going like in full circle. They push here, we push back. Push, pull. Definitely interesting times. But this is on the positive side of things. And I told you guys I would talk about positive things. Positive things like RPM ammo. Check out my locals for a post on them. Forge Tech holsters down in the description. Blackout Coffee down in the description. Supporting this channel. Links are in the description. Very positive things. Also this. According to the FBI's National Criminal Background Check System, 29,854,186 background checks were logged in 2023. Well, I would note that means 29.8 million infringements upon the Constitution occurred because NICS is unconstitutional. Having to get a background check is unconstitutional. However, this is the way they log stats. And it says this beats 2022, which saw 28.9 million. Approximately background checks. Guns.com reported on Thursday. Now that's interesting to me though, and these are just the stats, and you guys can look up this article for yourself. This is from the Gateway Pundit. Shout out to my lovely wife if she's still awake watching this. She sent me this article and is often trying to keep us all in the loop on current events. That's weird that there were 29.8, so basically rounded up to 30 million background checks and only 16 million guns. Does that mean there's 2 background checks for every purchase? I don't know. Maybe there are. That's kind of interesting. According to the National Shooting Sports Foundation, Americans purchased an estimated 15.8 million firearms in 2023, with 1,775,000 purchased in December alone. So just since December alone, we've had the government threaten us with like 10 crazy things and find out about these draconian lists and all this. And America comes back and buys a cool 1.8 million firearms in 1 month that they know of that went through NICS checks. How many are getting printed? Who's going to know? How many are being done in the cornfield, in the Walmart parking lot, in the back alley, out in the mountains, in the hills? Who's going to know? I don't know. I don't want to know. I don't want them to know either. So, but that's how many people actually like on the books, on paper. That's a lot of guns. What's going on right now? I'm seriously asking. There's just this gridlock, like back and forth and back and forth. Bruin comes down, smacks down all this gun control, and then states come back and retaliate and put more gun control laws on the books. The ATF comes through and just bam. I mean, the ATF made those arguments in court. I covered this on a recent live stream saying that their rules are so much more powerful than a law that their rules can't even be challenged in court. But we just bought 1.8 million firearms just in December alone. Seriously, are we winning? Are we losing? I want you guys to talk about it. I'll read what you guys say. And whew, way up in the trees, Frog Out Design Studios just said, yeah, I hear you, man. Hey, wherever, guys. You do you. None of my business what you do. I'm not a cop and I don't want to know. It says NSSF spokesperson Mark Oliva said that 24 states currently allow gun buyers to purchase. Allow gun buyers. See? Ugh. I always catch up on these key verbiages. Allow gun buyers to purchase additional firearms without having to go through another background check. So the actual number of sales is likely higher. Yeah, because you could do 140 for 73 and transfer, I don't know, 150 Derringers or, I don't know, Heritage Rough Riders or High Points or something. Make sure you guys are checking out my locals, by the way, for awesome deals on stuff, because really, really good deals to be had right now. It truly, truly is a buyer's market. Like, that's actually a little bit, that's a good thing. That's a little bit of daylight. It's truly a buyer's market in so many ways. Don't believe me? Go over to my locals. You'll see what I'm talking about. It says, by the millions, for 50 months straight, law-abiding citizens are choosing their right to keep and bear arms despite the efforts of gun control politicians to enact laws to chill that right, and others that issue unconstitutional edicts that deny that right, Oliva said in an email to the outlet in September. Lawful possession is truly the determining factor of American character, that we are people of self-determination and not left to be victims of those who have no respect for life or law. And that's absolutely right, guys. Look, it's always been this way. It always will be this way. These laws only affect the law-abiding, period. Criminals, by sheer definition, don't follow laws. And then good people like you, you're thinking to yourself, dude, why do I even have to do a background check? Why? Well, if you live in America, you're not supposed to have to do a background check. That's exactly what I'm getting at right now. So no, you're not nuts. You're perfectly normal. The government can tell you you are. The fake news can tell you you are. But if your gut's telling you, dude, why do I need any of these laws? I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to hurt anybody. I get robbed blind, taxed to no end, trying to make ends meet at the end of each week, month, day. A lot of people, it's hard to budget past a day or two right now. I just want to enjoy what I can in life, you're thinking. And I want to protect myself and protect my family and my hometown and my state and my country. Yeah, I know. And you're like, I don't need laws to tell me to do that. Maybe you don't need laws to tell you to be a good person just because you were raised knowing right from wrong. I've heard some people from more of the secular belief say that they believe in what's called karma. Some religions believe in that as well. Some people believe that they're going to fry in hell if they do the wrong thing and they don't do unto others as they would have them do unto you. And that's the reason why. But look, good people have a moral compass where they're not going to want to do anything bad. And you cannot legislate morality. You can never, ever, ever, and this has been proven since the beginning of time. Speaking of the Bible, if you bought one, you're on a list. You're on a big time list if you bought 2 or 3 or 10. But you can go back to biblical days. You can go back before then. And this stuff's always been this way. You've never, ever, ever been able to legislate morality. And here's the crazy part. Even if you could, and this just pokes a hole right in it, which then again proves you can't. But for pretend, maybe for a minute you could. Before you go making people do all these background checks and outlawing certain types of firearms, wouldn't you just make a law that says it's illegal to murder? Because see, if the laws worked, you would just make the one law that said it's illegal to murder, or it's illegal to rob somebody. Armed robbery is illegal, you could do, right? You could say assault with a weapon's illegal. You could say battery with a weapon's illegal. You could write all of these laws, and if they worked, why would you need to worry about gun laws? Because it would be illegal to kill, hurt, maim, rob, steal, sexual assault, you name it, whatever it would be. Oh, wait, those are already illegal federally and in all of these 50 states. People still do it. And here's the unfortunate part, and they always will. And they always have, and they always will. So they want to legislate morality. Good people don't need a law. You're just not going to do it because of nothing other than you just know it's wrong. Or you're afraid that your creator, you're afraid the only good judge out there is going to judge you for that. So it's definitely interesting. They just keep passing more and more laws that only affect the law abiding. Now, this is interesting too. So there's encouraging figures of how many people are buying guns. But in 2023 alone, the Americans experienced a slew of new restrictions on their Second Amendment rights. Second Amendment protected rights, I'm throwing in there. Because you don't get your rights from the government or from a piece of paper. These are the laws of nature and of nature's God, is what Thomas Jefferson wrote when he was in his mid-30s, signed July 4th, 1776. Don't call it your Second Amendment right. You can, and I know what you mean, and it's fine, but it's your Second Amendment protected right. That's very, very important. It does matter how you think about these things. That's why I do these streams, so we can think about these things. In August, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms escalated its efforts to strip gun dealers of their federal firearms licenses, also unconstitutional, that FFLs should have to have a license, pulling 122 federal firearms licenses from dealers in fiscal year 2023 alone. See? So I said, we're pushing here, right? They're going to push back. So as we're breaking records, 50 months straight, they're talking about here, 1.8 million this month, 28 million the year before, 29.8 million guns, basically 30 million and 29 million in each of the last 2 years. They're closing down FFLs and revoking their licenses at record paces. See what I mean? It's like it's back and it's forth. It was warm in Michigan 2 weeks ago. Freezing cold. It's getting down to like 0 or -1 tonight. Then it's going to be warm next week. When it gets nice out, though, don't just sit there and not prepare, though, for when it gets cold. Like, I want to motivate you guys with some wins we're having, and I'm going to talk about some of those in just a couple minutes here, some more. But people are buying guns. You're not the only one. You're not the only one thinking about how well armed you need to be and you want to be. That's the good news. But then they come back and they close down gun dealers. There's a really big case going on right now in the Supreme Court. There's a lot of them, actually. They're going to be taking the bump stock case soon, the Cargill case. That's huge. But there's another one that's even been heard ahead of that. And I was listening to some of the oral arguments just the other day. My friend Jared from Guns and Gadgets, he's one of the owners of Blackout Coffee, by the way. That's why I like to recommend them. If you buy it using my link down in the description, guys, the channel gets a couple bucks, helps keep this channel going. Also supports that guy, which is a friend of mine, really nice guy, Second Amendment fighter, and they're not a woke company. But I was listening to his stream the other day where he was live streaming the oral arguments, and they're having it's called the fisherman's case, right, is what you call it for slang. And I'm not an expert on it, like I will study a lot of the Second Amendment cases, but what they're finally going after in the Supreme Court of the United States, this is do or die time, man. This is a big deal right now. They're arguing over this so-called Chevron deference. Now, I know that's become a trendy thing, but guys, I was talking about Chevron deference on this channel way back before it was even cool. We've talked about a lot of things on this channel before it was cool. Good to see you guys that are still here all these years later. But the Chevron deference is this really messed up thing, and I'm going to give a real quick synopsis of it because it's a little more nuanced than this, but not much. Basically, if you have a law that's written, okay, by the United States Congress, it passes the House, the Senate, and is signed normally by the President of the United States. Right now, it would be by the current former Vice President. Let's go, Brandon. You know, it goes through and it's a law, and, well, first of all, the law has to be constitutional. Because if you look at very early Supreme Court precedent, Marbury v. Madison, back in like 1803, we're talking about appointments that were made, presidential appointments. And this is where you've got Marbury, you've got Madison, you've got Thomas Jefferson exchanging power, right? When the one leaves office and the other comes in. This is back right in the founding era. Said all laws that are repugnant to the Constitution, those are void. Which, yeah, obviously. The Constitution itself says it's the supreme law of the land. Okay. All right. So if there's a law that's passed and there's anything in there that's considered to be the least bit so-called ambiguous. Now, I say so-called because when you get to definitions of like what's a machine gun, A bump stock doesn't meet that definition. There's no ambiguous terminology in there, no ambiguity in there. It's just very, very, like, it literally says exactly what it is, right? Well, they try to change function to pull of the trigger, and they're trying to do all this crazy stuff now. Well, this is where we're down this long train of abuses and usurpations, just like a 35-year-old named Thomas Jefferson wrote in 1776. We're down the long train in so many ways. We've gotten so convoluted right now where there's this Administrative Procedures Act that was written long ago, actually. Ugh. That thing needs to go bye-bye. Let's try to get rid of Chevron deference first. That's in front of the Supreme Court right now. The Administrative Procedures Act basically says that the bureaucrats, the deep state, these alphabet agencies, the administrative state, some people say the fourth because it's unelected, the fourth and most powerful branch of government, because you don't get to vote on these people. There's no way to hold them accountable, that they can actually go through and administer the laws that fall under the jurisdiction of these groups. And that's where we have ATF saying things like, well, the Gun Control Act and the National Firearms Act specifically state what a gun, what criteria it has to meet to be a machine gun. It specifically states the criteria of what a shoulder stock is. Let's think about the pistol brace rule. They specifically states in the law. Now, these are all unconstitutional laws. We shouldn't even have to talk about this. They should be null and void, like Marbury v. Madison. Supreme Court decision said, and like the Second Amendment says, obviously shall not be infringed, but just humor me here. Here we are along this long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably, right? Okay. So you have a law that says this is a machine gun, this is a stock, and in the Second Amendment gun world, right? Then they come in and say, no, a brace is actually a stock now. A bump stock is now a machine gun. Because we think it was ambiguous and wasn't clear what the law said. So that's where the ATF comes in and writes rules. Well, it's not just them. It's the EPA. It's so many groups of government that you can't even think of. The Administrative Procedures Act allows them to promulgate rules and regulations. Well, here's the problem with the Chevron deference. So if they make a rule under their regulatory abilities out of the Administrative Procedures Act, the APA, and their rule is contrary to what the law says. Now, you'd think to yourself, hold on a minute. If an agency has the power and abilities, I'm using big air quotes, this is all unconstitutional, but again, here we are. If they have the authority to promulgate a rule based off of a law, but the rule says something that's contrary to the law, you'd think the rule would be nullified because the law should reign supreme above the rule. Well, yeah, obviously you'd think that. But if you thought that, you'd be wrong. Because you go back to a case about 40 years ago, you're talking the United States Department of Natural Resources versus the Chevron Oil Company. That's why this is called the Chevron deference. And they basically said that if there was a mix-up, if there was a conflict between the agency's regulatory rule versus what the law itself said, that judges had to give a deference, right, or preferential ruling to the agency's rule. And the judges were ordered that, this is lower judges, this is something the Supreme Court had decided years ago. That's why it's called a deference. They call it case law, precedent setting, ruling, things like that. I'm sure you guys have heard those terms before. And I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think I'm wrong in anything I'm saying factually. Do your own research. So they go through and say lower courts have to side with the agency over what the actual law says. And that's literally insane. Because we have agencies like the ATF that are virtually rewriting the Gun Control Act of 68 and the National Firearms Act of 34, and as unconstitutional as they already are and always have been and always will be, they're making them even worse than that. And then lower courts are supposed to have to decide with the agency's ruling because of this so-called Chevron deference. And that's what the United States government is using in so many cases with the ATF, the EPA. And in this, we're talking about the fishermen. They're saying that they can have these spies, basically, regulators, whatever you want to call them, on these fishing boats. And the fishing boat captain has to put them up and I guess feed them and have them on there so that they can regulate them more, put their boot on their neck more. And yeah, this is a really, really big case. And I heard the attorney, his last name's Clement. He was actually the one that was arguing in Bruin, wasn't he? He's arguing for the fishermen right now. and they're taking a big stab at, and right now might be our last chance to get rid of that Chevron deference. If that Chevron deference falls and the Supreme Court overrules their previous decision, because the original Chevron deference wasn't even supposed to apply to stuff that was criminal acts that you could go to prison for. It was supposed to be like how the government is supposed to administer itself, right? Like rules on how the Department of Natural Resources is supposed to act. And those rules were supposed to only originally be binding on the department itself. Now they've just gone full bore with it and said, yep, we're literally going to change from a function of the trigger to a pull of the trigger. And we're now going to change from designed to redesigned and intended to be fired from the shoulder from, just because something rearwardly protrudes from the back of your pistol, it's now a brace. Now, right now, we do have an injunction on that, nationwide injunction, but I have a viewer that's talking to me. His name's Ryan. I don't know. Maybe he'll be willing to talk to me so we can do a full video that during this injunction had his pistol brace destroyed. And I'm finding out in many places, in this case, Florida, they are still confiscating and destroying braces on the local law enforcement level. So this is where we end up in this tumult, even though Florida Attorney General, said they're not going to act on that. So this is still affecting people like crazy. If this Chevron deference gets overturned in front of this current Supreme Court, major victory. Major victory. So that's another good news. See what happens? They come in with another rule. We buy 2 million guns, then we get a court case win. I hope this one's going to be a court case win, like how the so-called Bruin decision was, how so many are, how the United States Sixth Circuit Court judge said that the pistol brace ban is unconstitutional, how the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals has said that bump stocks are not machine guns. That's the Michael Cargill case out of Texas. So these are victories. These are good things. And here's a couple more victories that's going on right now. So there was a Pennsylvania law that would prohibit 18 to 20-year-olds from keeping and bearing arms, openly carrying them during, I think, designated times of emergency. I'm paraphrasing here. That was just struck down by the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. Just struck down the ban on being able to keep and bear arms for 18 to 20-year-olds, people less than 21, right? That was a big victory out of the United States Third Circuit Court of Appeals. That's huge. So congratulations on that. That's an awesome deal. You've just got so many things that are getting turned around right now, but then the government comes back and they push again. You know what I mean? It's like it's back and it's forth and it's back and it's forth. This is another one that's a big deal. Bans on guns in post offices. And this is one I printed off from Reuters, okay? Let's go over this for a couple minutes here, because I do like this one. This is a big deal to me, guys. Oh, geez. I have a P.O. box, all right? Some of you guys sometimes send me stuff to help out the channel, and thank you. I have a P.O. box, which is inside of a post office. And the post office since the early 70s, 72, I believe, off the top of my head, has banned firearms from the whole premises. That would include in the building. That would include in the parking lot. Doesn't matter if it's locked, unlocked. If it's in your vehicle, it's still banned. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, gotta love Clarence Thomas. Here, Scott Mitchell. I agree, man. Look, United States Postal Service has one of the most draconian gun bans. You can't even have it in their parking lot. Now, look, guys, I'm not going to give you any legal advice. I don't even want to know what you guys do because it's none of my business. But certain people say, I don't care. I just walk in with a gun. Sure. There's reasons why you might not want to, though. And when I go to check my mail, and I have reasons for this, trust me, I have specific reasons why, even in addition to just it being against the law. But that's all I'm going to say publicly. I'll just leave it at that. I have reasons why. Just due to dynamics sometimes in a small town, if you know what I mean, where every time I go to the post office, I have to disarm myself temporarily, lock my gun in my car, park in the grocery store parking lot across the street, and walk through the rain, through the snow. There's like these 3-foot berms just to go check my darn mail. Now, I know there's someone out there. I know it's easy to be tough on the internet. I get it. There's somebody saying, oh, you wimp, you wuss, I shall not comply. Just carry it in there. I have reasons why I don't just carry it in there. Okay. I think I'm like the most easygoing, normal person you've ever met. But for some reason, I'm considered controversial. And there's reasons and things in a small town reasons why. Trust me, it's not a good idea for me to even think about breaking that law for even half a second. And I'm not suggesting anybody ever break any laws, by the way, for all of the YouTube people. I don't suggest. But there's reasons why I'm not going to do that. Trust me. So I have to disarm myself. I'm trudging through like these 3-foot hard-packed snow berms just to go check my mail, which is insane. Well, bans on guns in post offices is unconstitutional, U.S. judge rules. Now, let me tell you real quick before I go any further. That doesn't mean you can carry in a post office today. I had to trudge literally through the snow drifts today. Okay? For those of you that are like, dude, just carry it anyways and put your middle fingers up. Well, I guess you don't like this stream because I wouldn't be on it right now if I did, if you know what I mean. So it doesn't change anything for you right this minute. But this is still good news and it's still a victory. And I want to talk about it just a little bit. A federal judge, QD said smart, yeah, the West East India Trading Company also likes to frequent the same post office as I do, if you know what I mean. January 13th, a federal judge in the current West East Dutch India Trading Company. Yeah, I said that hyperbolic on purpose. A federal judge in Florida on Friday ruled that a U.S. law that bars people from possessing firearms in post offices is unconstitutional. Yes. Citing a landmark U.S. Supreme Court ruling from 2022 that expanded gun rights. U.S. District Judge Catherine Kimball Mazzelli, maybe? And an appointee of Republican former President Donald Trump in Tampa reached that conclusion in dismissing part of an indictment charging a postal worker with illegally possessing a gun in a federal facility. My picture's probably on the wall. What's up, Pillbox Mugger? How you doing, man? No, I'm pretty smart. I'm 100% law-abiding in every way possible. Trust me. Just ask me. I'll tell you so myself. No one's more law-abiding than me. Follow every law to the T. Dot my I's and cross my T's. Mazzell said that charge violated Emmanuel Ayala, I think. I'm probably not pronouncing her, Ayala's right to keep and bear arms under the U.S. Constitution's Second Amendment, saying, quote, a blanket restriction in firearms possession in post offices is incongruent with the American tradition of firearms regulations. Bingo. Now, I'm going to say this real quick before I keep reading. This was only her setting aside the charge or dismissing the charge for this one person. Right now, this only applies to him. This is not precedent setting in that district. This is not precedent setting in the circuit. However, this is. So there's a reason I disarmed myself before I walked into the post office today, even though I knew about this court ruling, and I was excited to talk about it tonight. So I'm not here to give legal advice, but that doesn't mean you, quote, can carry in post offices now. You still, quote, can't. And I'm saying in quotes, according to the laws. Right? The laws on the books. And they would violate you. In fact, the Postal Service is fighting back and put out a press release saying it's still against the law and you can still have all of this happen to you. Major felonies. However, this is how you do this. This is how it has to start somewhere, guys. This is unheard of. Ever since 1972, I don't know a federal judge that's even thought about setting aside or declaring unconstitutional the United States post office ban. And here's the thing. I know there's someone thinking, dude, who cares? I don't even go to the post office. Dude, like we all need to care because this is a federal building. This is a part of the federal United States government. This judge is not just taking a swipe at the post office. She could only rule on the post office because that was the facts of the case in front of her. You guys know how this works, right? A judge like this can't say, well, I'm going to rule on whether you can carry in a court house. Well, no, the person in front of her wasn't in trouble for carrying in a court. They were in trouble for carrying on United States Postal Service property. So just keep in mind, that's what a district judge such as this is able to rule on, the facts in front of them. But even though she only specifically dismissed the charges for this one person, okay, I'm sure the government's going to appeal it and still try to get this Emmanuel back, charged again. I'm sure they're going to try to do that. Obviously, they're not going to stop until, we stop them, quite frankly. But we're winning a lot right now, so that's good. This is a big, big step in the right direction. No judge has ever tried to challenge the United States Postal Service. They've considered it to be bulletproof. You know what I mean? Mazel said, she cited the tradition, incongruent with America's tradition of firearms regulations. See, Bruin basically said, unless there was a comparable gun law at the time of the founding, not by the time you get to the Civil War or the Reconstruction era. By then, all the founding fathers had already passed away. Anything that was getting passed through Congress at that time, or state laws or local restrictions, none of those were that the founding era had long passed. You could argue maybe while there were still a handful of influential founding fathers alive, the argument could be made that still the founding era, people like Thomas Jefferson did live well into old age and things like that. But no matter what, by the time you get past a certain era, it is not the founding era. And if there was no synonymous gun control laws at the time of the founding of this country, going back from the colonial days until I would think probably 1789, 1791, right? Because 1789 is the Bill of Rights is written. 1791 is when it was ratified by the Senate and put in as official ratified amendments. So they became the full force and effective law in 1791. There was nothing like this at that time. And the judge went through and looked at that and was like, yeah, there's nothing in the founding documents. I'm bound by the Bruin decision. She did decline to dismiss a separate charge for forcibly resisting arrest. Ayala's lawyer and a U.S. Justice Department spokesperson did not respond to requests for comment. The decision marked the latest court decision declaring a gun restriction unconstitutional following the conservative majority Supreme Court's June 2022 ruling and New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. That ruling recognized for the first time that the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to carry a handgun in public for self-defense. It also established a new test for assessing firearms laws, and that's where Clarence Thomas came in big time. It's no longer a two-part test. You have the first test. Is it congruent and synonymous with gun control laws at the time of the founding? If it's not, he said by the time you go to the second test, you've already gone one step too far. The law is void right then and there if you can't pass that very first test, which is crazy. That's way better for us than it was if it was even strict scrutiny. Before that, courts were choosing to try Second Amendment cases under intermediate scrutiny, right? So this was a big court victory. It also establishes new tests for assessing firearms laws, saying restrictions must be consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearms regulation. Here's the facts of the case real quick. Ayala, a U.S. Postal Service truck driver in Tampa, had a concealed weapons permit and kept a Smith & Wesson 9mm handgun in a fanny pack for self-defense, his lawyer said. He was indicted after prosecutors said he brought the gun onto Postal Service property in 2012. So this guy's already had 12 years of his life ruined over this, and fled federal agents who tried to detain him. He was charged under a statute that broadly prohibits possessing a firearm in a federal facility, including a post office. The judge, Mazzelli, said that while post offices have existed since the nation's founding, federal law did not bar guns in government buildings until 1964 and post offices until 1972. No historical practice dating back to the 1700s justified the ban, she said. Mizal, I'm going to pronounce it different every time because I don't know how to pronounce her name. Mizal said allowing the federal government to restrict visitors from bringing guns into federal facilities as a condition of admittance would allow it to, quote, abridge the right to keep and bear arms by regulating it into practical non-existence. Man, that's cool. No, I talked the first half of this stream on how everything's doom and gloom. Well, that was doom and gloom, what we were talking about earlier, and we need to talk about that, but that kind of made me smile. Look, we get it. I get it. You guys know how I would rule or vote if I was a Supreme Court justice, right? You guys know what I would do if I was the president of the United States. But no, I'm not going to ever be the president or a justice. I'm not going to ever get involved in politics at all. So it's one thing for people like me and you to get it, and that's actually the most important thing, is that we, the people, get it. Regular people like us. But then we need to, because look, we're in a culture war. We're truly, truly in a culture war right now. See, that's what's kind of ironic. Earlier, I went through the whole thing. Over 50% of the people when surveyed think we might be in a civil war. It's like, yeah, think? We're literally in one right now. And we're fighting like hell right now to keep this from being a communist country. And that's why we have to win this culture war. And that's why you're very, very important. And your friends are very, very important. And people in your hometown are very important. That's why I suggest you interact with your friends and your family and people in your hometown and on your state and local levels, because that's where you can affect the most change and where you can affect the best relationships and chances to fight back. And then once like we start to get it, politics is downstream from culture. Then we start to see judges coming out getting it now. And then we see some politicians. There's many, many bad ones. But especially when we get down to the state and local level, you'll actually find some good ones fighting like crazy. So that's good when we see the powers that be that are finally starting to get it. It's like, dude, all of us have been sitting here like we've understood this the whole time. Maybe some of you guys are just now starting to understand it. Maybe that's why you're here right now. And welcome if you're totally new to this. But federal judges are time and time again lately coming out and saying, look, this clearly does not meet the scrutiny of the Bruin decision of the Second Amendment. There was no pins at post offices until 1972. Which is completely and utterly crazy that the government will come back. And look, the government's going to fight this case single-handedly. But although this does not set case law for you, I want to say that one more time. There's only one person who got in trouble for this 12 years ago that stands to benefit from this exact case. However, this is now something that can be cited. The judge has just broken the ice. That's very, very important. There's a bunch of perch down there. Below Lake Erie, you're fishing in Breast Bay, it's called. It's a big fishing place. If you're anywhere around Lake Erie, maybe you've heard of it. You're fishing in Breast Bay, around the town of Newport, Michigan. Newport and Monroe, Michigan down there, right? And you're like, oh, I can just see those schools of perch. Perch is a good ice fishing fish, right? You're looking down there, you can see them. What are you going to do? Someone's got to eventually break that ice. Nowadays, everybody has the augers, right? Gasoline. Those are cool. I actually have a earth auger that I use. But hey, look, it used to be the old-fashioned spud. You got there with your ice spud and ching, 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 ching. Someone's got to break that ice before then somebody can drop a line or set up their tip-ups or whatever it is that you do. Yeah, don't enter the wrong person's ice fishing shanty in Michigan. Yeah, that could make you a domestic violence criminal and strip away your right to keep and bear arms in Michigan for 8 years. That's going into effect here in 3 weeks. So be careful what shanty, even though like Cabela's. Ooh, you're on a list if you shopped at Cabela's and Dick's. Does anyone shop at Dick's anymore for guns? Are you kidding me? But you go to Cabela's and you buy your ice fishing shanty. There's always that model they put on sale certain times of the year. You guys know what I mean? They put it on sale. It's right on the cover. They got like 50 million in stock. There's a coupon, whatever. And like 50 people from every town around the lake buy one. And there's like 50 of these same ones. It's like the flavor of the year. A couple years later, it'll kind of switch. You guys know what I'm talking about? I grew up, on Lake Erie, around there, so I know all about it. There could be 50 ice shanties within just like a short walk that all look the same, and you accidentally walk into one thinking it's yours. For those of you that are Southern boys and you're like, ice shanty? Yeah, it's called an ice fishing shanty. Look it up. It'll be a good education. Enter the wrong one, you could be considered a domestic violence offender. Well, only if you abuse somebody that's in the... Yeah, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised what you could do. You can make an unsolicited commercial phone call after 9 p.m. from a long list of people and become a prohibited person in Michigan very, very soon. While we have judges, though, across this whole country saying, no, that doesn't meet the history of the United States. That doesn't meet the founding history of what the laws were. Pennsylvania just struck down that 18 to 20-year-old ban, or the Third Circuit Court of Appeals did. The federal U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals did for a Pennsylvania law. So that's a huge victory. But yeah, you know what I mean. You can't catch those beautiful perch. They're called lake perch. Those of you that live on the ocean, shout out. Maybe you guys have ocean perch, but it's called lake perch. You have to spud that hole. You have to break that hole. The judge just broke the hole. So I hope there's a major victory that's going to promulgate from this, but we will see. Hopefully the federal government's stupid enough to challenge this judge and keep escalating it up through the courts of appeals. I believe Florida's the 10th Circuit. I have no notes in front of me, guys. I'm trying just to remember. I think Florida's the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. Hopefully this gets promulgated all the way on up, and then once we have a Circuit Court of Appeals, see, if they rule, then that does become binding law for certain number of states that happen to be in that circuit. Then if it goes all the way up to SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, then it can become precedent and binding for all of these 50 states. So that's kind of how it starts. And I see some good things brewing there that I like. And there's a lot more good things brewing right now, I'm sitting there looking at Michigan, which is completely abysmal in so many ways. But I was talking to my favorite state representative. Her name's Jamie Thompson. She's been a guest on this channel a couple times. If you guys want to see what she's all about, make sure you go back and watch this channel previously. She's been my guest. She's been on videos. There's videos of us out shooting guns, everything, right? We're talking lately and about some of the doom and gloom, but then she's starting to talk about some positive things and how some things might be moving in the right direction. Things that once we can get the majority back and then get some of the rhinos out of power. And, I'm not quoting her on any of this. A lot of this is me talking. And then we're going to hold you guys to get these rhinos out. And then we need to get in there and start reversing a lot of these gun control laws right here in my home state of Michigan. And that was a positive thing, knowing that somebody who lives in my community, who represents me and 90,000 other people in this area of Michigan, is back at Lansing again for this session. They've got complete gridlock in the Michigan House of Representatives. That's good, meaning it's tied 54-54, Republicans and Democrats. Democrats, very unlikely they can get anything through right now. Yeah, Republicans can't either, but it's gridlock. That's actually good when they can't do a damn thing in the Capitol right now. Way better than what it was last year. First, you have to stop the bleeding. You have to stop the bleeding first. Now, am I sticking up for Republicans generally? No. Do I think Republicans are the answer? No. Often they're part of the problem, but we have to be pragmatic and we have to be reasonable, because just being frustrated all the time just doesn't make any sense. And it's not healthy for you. And it's not a winning strategy either. I know you guys might be surprised to hear me say this. I'm not a doom and gloom person. I have to bring up this doom and gloom stuff on this channel because it has to be talked about. You cannot just sit there high on the hog and just keep saying, America, America, America. Great. Just sitting there saying how great everything is. No, you have to take this stuff head on, these evils and these atrocities that are being committed. But I also focus tons of my time and energy on good things. I want to wave a magic wand right now and get rid of every Michigan gun control law that passed that hasn't taken effect yet. That's actually what I want to do. I truly, truly want to do that right now. And then I want to repeal every gun control law that's ever been written in Michigan. If I could snap my fingers, I promise you I'd do it right now. I would have already done it a long time ago. I can't do that. And in one regard, it's not okay, but hey, you get dealt a hand and you got to play the hand that you're dealt. And I don't want to blame future generations. I mean, I do want to blame them, but I don't want to blame them. You know, people were just sitting here lazy and wouldn't do anything to stand up for the Second Amendment in this country for hundreds of years. Nothing got reversed for almost a couple hundred years in this country. No, I'm being serious. Once gun control started creeping in the 1800s, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So actually, this is going to be a shocker for most of you. But our generation right now, I don't mean the generation like, are you a Z or a Generation X, or are you a baby boomer? I don't mean it like that. I just mean people that are around right now, people that are alive. And listening to this, we're fighting back actually way more than the so-called greatest generation did. And I'm not putting those people down. They were great for going over to Europe and fighting. They were great for going over to the Pacific and fighting. And they fought heroically, and I take nothing away from them. But they did nothing to fight here at all. Nobody in this country gave a dang about the United States of America for a long, long time. And that's why we find ourselves in the shape we're in. It's this huge, huge elephant. How do you eat an elephant? You eat him one bite at a time. And when I see people on my local township board that are finally, we got our township board turned around in my hometown, where they're supporting the Second Amendment. We see a township in Michigan, in Houghton Township, that formed a militia. Yeah, that's awesome. And then my county board of commissioners passing this as a 2A sanctuary county a couple of years ago, and then renewing it again just last year. Now, I'm not speaking for all of them. Look, there's not one pro-Second Amendment Democrat in all of Lansing, period. So if you are going to find some allies, you do go to the Republicans. All Republicans are not on our side, but that is where you can find some allies. And been spending as much time as I can. I'm a really busy person, and she's a really busy person, but I've been taking time, and she's been taking the time where I've been talking to my state representative a lot. Because first you have to take that wound and get it bandaged up enough. And she's actually a nurse, so she would know way more about that analogy than I would. But first you have to somehow get that wound bandaged up enough just to stop the bleeding. And then it has to form a nasty scab, and all this stuff's nasty. Politics are nasty. That's why there's not a whole lot of good people in politics. But when you can find one, you need to support them and uplift them. That's why I'm there giving my state rep intel, giving her encouragement. She's in the second closest district in all of Michigan, the 28th district. If you guys are in the district, make sure you get out and vote and support her. And make sure you know where all of your politicians stand in all of these 50 states. But we're fighting back in a lot of ways right now, and that's encouraging. Now, look, you can have it where you remove the bandage off and nick it on something, and the scab could just come right off, and it can start bleeding again. I know. Sometimes it rains. Sometimes it snows. But then sometimes it actually doesn't rain, and it doesn't snow, and it's sunny out, and there are lots of beautiful things that you can experience, right? So I encourage all of you guys, like I said, focus on local stuff if you can. Focus on federal too. This is a federal nationwide audience I have. So I like to talk about national issues a lot too. I also do some specific videos with Michigan, and just did a long one with Brendan Boudreaux of Great Lakes Gun Rights. Yeah, Houghton Township. So, yeah, focus on what you guys can. But like I said, there's some crazy, creepy stuff going on. Look, if you guys need another Bible, I'd just buy another Bible. You're already on the list. If you need a gun, buy another gun. Ammo, Cabela's, whatever. You're already on that list. Do what you want to do. I suggest everybody always follow all of your laws and talk to any lawyer if you need legal advice, because I don't give any of that here. But lots of stuff to think about and lots of stuff to look forward to. That's for sure. And I'm really excited about that fisherman's case. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? That fisherman's case. My friend Paul Glasgow, shout out to the Legally Armed America channel. He put out an excellent video on that. I'm going to highly suggest that to you guys. Look, many good channels, many good people. I'm friends with a lot of them, but Paul Glasgow, Legally Armed America is the name of the channel. Just look through his feed. It was probably just in the last week. He went through a nice analysis of that, I'm just calling it the fisherman's case, trying to take out the Chevron deference. QD just said Paul's great. Yeah, man. Me and QD was hanging out with Paul and Rich and Crump in real life. Dude, that's almost a year ago now. Dude, can you believe that's almost? Dude, that was 10 months ago. Wow. What's up, Jay in the Swamp 24? Nice to see you, man. All right, I'm going to take a look at the chat here, and I'm going to jump off in just a minute. Colin L came in with the super chat. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude. And a channel member plus. So thank you for supporting the channel. He says, Scandia, Michigan. Right on, man. See, I told you some Michigan people would jump back in here. And thanks for hanging out, man. I appreciate the support. And QD just came in and gifted 5 2A EDU memberships. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And make sure you guys check out some bonus content videos that just became members. And if you check the link down in the description, anyone can save 5% off of Forge Tech holsters. That is not an affiliate link, guys. I'm not earning commission off of that, but they make really, really nice holsters made in the USA with all USA components. I'll show you what goes inside tomorrow night on Locals. Can't do it here. 5% codes down in the description. Channel members, I will freshen up my posts over there if I haven't recently and let you guys in on even a better code. Same thing, I just posted it to Locals the other day. And I will make sure that's on Patreon. So QD just gave 5 people access to some more content and some better discount codes. Nice to see you, old Coasty. It's sad times, man, but there's some good times too, right? There's some good things going on. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you guys tomorrow night over on Locals. Guys, look, I'm just really excited that it's going to get back up to almost 40 degrees next week, but unfortunately it's 0 tonight, and I do have to go out and salt again. I have a couple parking lots that need salted, so I'm going to have to get to that stuff in just a minute here. So the stream's almost over, but if you guys don't mind, even if you do mind, I'm going to do it anyways. I just want to say hi to a couple guys on the way out of here. I mean, geez, give you guys some shout outs. Man, oh man, like I said, this judge is a big deal, but this judge that ruled against the Postal Service, not as big of a deal as you guys. You guys are literally like a pretty big deal, man. You guys are famous too. I'll tell you this. I'll go around different chats sometimes, and people will bring up not really the 2A EDU channel much, which makes sense. I mean, why would you? But the chats, they'll be like, dude, over in 2A EDU's chat. So you guys are kind of famous out there. I'm being serious too. Great chatting with you, Scott Mitchell. Hopefully you can enjoy the bike down there where it's a little bit warmer and stuff. Northern Ferry customization. What's happening, man? It's supposed to rain all week here too. We must be neighbors, man. Jeez, oh Pete. Now that we're neighbors, can you help me shovel some snow tonight, man? Come on, buddy. I don't know, but it's supposed to rain all week. What's up, Jim Falcone? Nice to see you, man. Dude, we've been on that list since we were born. Yeah. Jeez, oh Pete's, man. Oop, there we go, guys. Just as I thought, shout out to the great state of Minnesota. Look at this. Minuteman for Jesus. Nice name, man. I like that. You're on a list. Look at this. Look, he's got the Constitution, I believe that is, or the Declaration. It's hard to see the little avatar. He's got that in the back in the good book. How many lists is this man on? Right on, dude. I'd hang out with you in real life. I know I would. He's saying -15 in Minnesota. Jeez, oh Pete's. Wow. Whew. We got down to, what was it, negative? What did it get down to, -7 last week or -5? I can't remember. I have no idea, man. What's happening, Jeffrey Harrison? Wish you could help with the snow. Yeah, I wish, man. Are you the one I said I'd send it all down to you if I could? I think. No, seriously, one of my southern friends said, dude, wish we could get a little snow. I'm like, trust me, dude. I promise. I will stick by this. If I figure this out, I will give you guys every last bit of this. If I never have to see snow the rest of my life, dude, oh, oh my gosh. Like, you guys can have all of it. Help me out, guys. Let's all of us Michigan guys get together and we'll get a really big shovel with like 50 handles and we'll just start pushing and we'll just keep pushing that stuff. We'll push it across the Ohio, right? Right past the old Mason-Dixon line, and we'll just keep going down and be like, there you go. Let's just dump it all over North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Bama, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona. Screw all those people. Let's take all this snow here. You guys know what I'm saying, right? Because here's the funny part. Even if we could disperse a 16th of an inch, none of these people can drive like we can up here. They're like, whoa, 16th of an inch of snow, and they... Oh, boy. Shout out to all my southern friends. You guys just can't drive if there's a 16th of an inch of snow. Now, I have to rib you. Please understand. We're still friends. Right, guys? Right, QD? We're still friends with people in the South. But you guys are all ribbing me, sending me pictures. Someone's floating down the river like in this like lagoon. They're like in the Florida Keys. They're swimming right now. I'm like, are you kidding me? So if you guys can rib me like that, I can remind all y'all that you can't drive in the snow. No, it's true. They shut down the whole state. I'm not joking. Dude, they can't drive in the snow. They're good at some things, right? But they can't drive in the snow down there. G23, what's happening, man? Nice to see you. He says, 2A Edu, I made a comment earlier you will enjoy. I will definitely enjoy that. I definitely will. I know some of you guys have four-wheelers and you can. Come on, I can't be too nice to you guys. Jeez, oh, Pete. Especially these people in Texas. I got to give you guys some crap. What's happening, Paul Bennett? Nice to see you, man. There's Dale. Used to love the winter. Can't snowmobile anymore. Not a fan. Yeah, that is. That and ice fishing. Don't enter the wrong shanty, guys. You lose your 2A for 8 years. Imagine that. Paul says, I look forward to it all week. Well, thanks, man. I do too. What's happening, Princess Kicking Butt? Nice to see you. Randy Smith, ready for spring for sure. Yeah, for sure. What's up, Kent? There we go. Monroe. Shout out to Monroe. Monroe County. Part of Monroe County is in my favorite state representative's district. Whose district are you in? Are you in Representative Bruck's district or Representative Thompson's district? Tom Bragalone? Which district are you in? Maybe we've met in real life. I'm from Monroe County. Oops, I just hit the wrong button here. Hold on, guys. I need to get a new mouse. We have Eden's Vision. Shout out to Eden's Vision out of West Kentucky. Sending love. 12 feels like 7. Yeah, geez. So you're over by the great state of Missouri. Is it Missouri or Missouri? That just depends what part of the state you live in. True story. Western part of the state. Maybe you're over by Louisville-ish. Kind of. I've been through Kentucky once or twice. What's up, Dolly Madison's dad? Nice to see you. Yeah, we stayed super warm here in Michigan for a long time. Dude, what's happening, Mike McClune? I was hoping I'd see someone from the great state of Pennsylvania. Third Circuit Court of Appeals just shot down that Pennsylvania law. Huh? You know? Shout out to Pennsylvania. All right. What's up, Horsepower Greed? Nice to see you, man. Drain the Swamp. Look at all these good people. M. Gabriel. Nice, man. Oh, it is a good chat in here, dude. For real. K in my building. What's happening, man? Nice to see you again. He says, great job, 2A Edu. Sharp as ever. Not that sharp, but I do what I can. Nice to see you, man. Yeah, man. Good to have you here, Tom. All right, guys. Well, there's way more of you than me. Richard Dickinson. Boom, 2A USA. Nice to see you, dude. I'll definitely look forward to seeing you over there on Locals. And Harry Grimley, what's happening, dude? Always reminding you guys to smash that thumbs up. So just do it for Harry because he's been in here. He's been watching these streams for a long time, man. Look at you guys. Miles, what's happening, man? He says, stay strong, chase excellent, brothers, and Godspeed. Heck yeah, man. I like that. See? There's some of the fighting kind in here. All right, guys. I'm going to jump off in 2 minutes here. Hold on. I just saw a question. What's up, Gov't? 268 thumbs ups. Wow, man. Thank you. What's happening, Jane Locke? Nice to see you. Jane's on the list. All right, guys. So many good people. I will catch up on all of this chat afterwards. I promise. But here's how we're going to end it tonight. Jeffrey McLeese. He says, 2A EDU, why do you call Joe Biden the former vice president? And you know what? And that's a good question. And I appreciate your question. It's a question I get frequently. And now it's a very complicated question, but the answer is very, very simple. Why do I call Joe Biden the current former vice president? Well, that's because he is the current former vice president. Duh, obviously. I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize the pressure. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.